Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage AMD's President and CEO, Dr. Lisa Su.
How are you guys doing? Are you doing great? Better than great? Are you here for a party? Okay, I gotta tell you guys something, all right? This is supposed to be the hottest ticket at GDC. You guys who are sitting here in the audience, we are so happy to have you. For all of you guys who are on the webcast, thank you for joining us. Do you feel like this is the hottest ticket in San Francisco? By the way, I gotta tell you, it was even hard for me to get in, okay? I had to ask for a special ticket. And they said, well, Lisa, if you're sure you want to come, you got to do something. I said, okay, what do you want me to do? They said I had to give out the first prizes for the evening. So what do you think? Give me a second. All right. You going to load me up? All right, let's go. You sure? My buddy here is helping me out. All right, guys. Who wants it? All right, let's go. Let's go.
Good.
This one?
Right there.
All right, one more. You got to give me some more juice here. Come on, buddy.
I got you right there.
All right. All right. We're good. We're good. We're good. So what do you guys think? Welcome to Capsaicin. This is our GDC event, and I got to tell you, I'm extraordinarily excited to be here. We have a great program in store for you. And it's really about three things, okay? When you think about AMD, we are about gamers, and we are about VR and how we can enable those experiences. So what you're going to hear about this afternoon is an incredible amount of hardware and software technologies. You can see some of it under veil here. Really, really, really focused on the game developer, okay? We are here to make the hardware better. And it's all about how we can bring that experience together. So you'll hear about DX12 and what we're doing with Liquid VR, and most importantly, pushing the art of VR. Isn't this the VR day for us? I mean, if you really think about everything that we have to do, it's really bringing all of these technologies together. Now, how many of you actually know what Capsaicin is? Yes? Some don't. I think we have to explain why are we called Capsaicin. So, can I invite Raja Katuri up on the stage? Raja? You guys like the lab coat? You gonna take off the coat or what, man?
Not yet, Lisa. I'm still in my scientist mode here. First off, I just want to say how incredibly excited I am to be here with you all at this party. If you actually kind of take a blood sample of me right now and do a test for endorphin levels, they'll be admitting me into the hospital right now. That's how high my adrenaline rush is.
By the way, this is excited Raja, okay? Normal Raja's a few decibels lower. This is excited Raja.
Yeah. So. I have a confession to make, Lisa, here. Lisa said many things about what this event is. We'll be talking about VR, DX12, and all. But we have a small confession to make. This is actually supposed to be an experiment. It's a performance per dollar and performance per watt experiment that we wanted to run across a wide range of people. And let me explain, Lisa, the experiment that we wanted to run. And this is actually a result of 30 years of pretty targeted scientific research that me and a small group of my colleagues have done. And this is can you all hear me? So this is to do with, alcohol, like beer, okay? There's a lot of research. I mean, you can find it online. There are medical journals and all that. A moderate amount of alcohol consumed, Lisa, makes you happy. Okay?
Yeah.
Too little, no effect. Too much, bad, right? I mean, there is a lot of research. Now, there is also another thing that some of the programmers will recognize, that there is a precise amount of alcohol, real precise amount of alcohol that can make you very productive. If you're just on the left side, on the right side, in fact, if you're on the right side, you can go negative productivity. There is a name for this peak, actually. If anybody is ultimate, geek or a nerd would know this. This is called the Balmer's Peak. It's on XKCD, the tech joke site. Now, what we have observed, or what I have personally observed, now this is, to consume a lot of alcohol is a problem, particularly if you have a performance per dollar issue, which I had. My monthly allowance when I was a graduate student was $8. $8 per month, not per hour, okay? $8 per month. So you had to maximize, the impact of alcohol. So we discovered that when you combine capsaicin, hot peppers with alcohol, you get to the happiness level much faster.
Yeah, yeah, really?
Yeah, you can expect.
Okay,
That's today. This is live. We are sharing this, and the other thing that I've also observed is that your productivity also goes high, but it goes down eventually. If too much alcohol is not good. But then over the last 15 years, we have observed another phenomena. This is launching GPUs, like 15 years with my friend and co-scientist, Dr. Hook, that when we had GPU launches and when we had conversations all night long about GPUs and the geeking out on programming details and all, we noticed that the happiness curve stayed flat all night long. And this is a small group experiment, so some of you are part of it, but Lisa?
This is Raja trying to convince me why capsaicin at GDC was the right thing to do. So the question is, am I going to get better GPUs?
Absolutely, Lisa, and we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that. So what we have over the next hour and a half is an appetizer, as I call, but the real full course meal plus alcohol plus capsaicin plus kind of geeking out on GPUs is going to happen until midnight. Okay, so nobody leave the place. We have a good selection of AMD engineers here that we want all the developers and the press and the analysts and all to mingle and talk all night long, beer, capsaicin, and GPUs, Lisa.
Raja, I will leave them in your capable hands. Please make sure they leave happy. The happiness index is important.
And that's guaranteed, Lisa. The productivity, I think, that's been proven, the happiness portion. The productivity, I think, is the results I'm waiting for or the next year or so, what we'll achieve with what we do at GDC.
Fantastic. All right, guys, we're going to have a great, great party.
Yep. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, sir.
I'll see you in a little bit. So I need to switch from my scientist mode to my engineer mode here to walk you through the next set of slides because, I'm wearing a capsaicin shirt like the rest of my colleagues, and I want you all to see the wonderful capsaicin logo. So this is fully legally approved. It's not a striptease or anything like that that's going on. For the right music, yes. Okay, so why am I super excited to be here, other than the capsaicin and beer, of course? So, I've seen a few cycles, and I know there are several of you in the audience seen some few exciting cycles. The PC plus the web browser enabled a personal computing era, right? We went from few millions of devices to over 500 million devices at their peak. And then We went through smartphones plus app era, about 1.2 billion smartphones being sold per year, right? Amazing. The reason I'm really, really excited to be here is because what is the next era? That's what I call the immersive era. And the one thing that I'm kind of personally passionate about is that this era is going to be enabled by GPUs and game engines. I don't know yet what devices, what shapes, what forms, what headsets, what experiences would be there, but the technology that will enable this era is GPU plus game engines. So why game engines? Okay. What other pieces of software in the ecosystem that have great real-time graphics, great AI, great physics, great sound, great multiplayer, multi-user, great networking? All of them are combined into game engines, right? These are the technologies that you need, not just for gaming experiences, but for any immersive interactive experiences that the immersive computing era is going to usher. And I mean, what piece of hardware is closest to the game engine for the last 15 years? It's the GPU. So the GPU plus game engine is going to usher the era. But we have challenges. We see the excitement. We see a lot of activity. We see the challenges. And I want to walk through some of the challenges, right? I like to think in terms of pixel rates, right, which kind of, which is the fundamental throughput metric. We have done quite well on pixel rates, right? You see the sweet spot resolutions in the PC today, 1920 by 1080 to 3840 by the 4K resolutions, hitting about 500 megapixels and all. But over the last 12 months, we've been seeing some real interesting patterns. The pixel rates are going up. We have 4K by 120 hertz panels coming up. And we also have various flavors of VR headsets, right, pushing it up over 1 gigapixel, right, which is moving up the hardware requirements high. And we also have HDR. We have some phenomenal demonstrations of HDR displays up above, and not going to spend a lot of time on HDR. A lot of you know about the importance of HDR, right? It's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful displays. Our computer display still can't do anything close to a simple mirror that has existed for thousands of years, right? We want to get there. And you're seeing, finally, some great, great progress being made in the consumers on the HDR displays. But if you look 2 years ahead, the VR resolutions are going up crazy, right? You see some of the technology, display technology folks that we are engaged with talking about 16K by 16K displays. So going from 500 megapixels to 60 gigapixels in, before we blink the eye, before like a couple of GDCs from now, we'll be talking very high resolution displays, right? That's a lot of increase in pixel rate. Now, if you combine the pursuit for photorealism and kind of this notion of full presence in VR, and we talked about this at various events in the last 12 months, you need a 1,000,000x GPU, right? If we use the existing approaches. And then what's happening on the hardware side is, we are improving performance per watt. Actually, the performance per watt rate is tracking Moore's law, right? We just announced Polaris at 2.5 times performance per watt, and our architects and our engineers busy working on the next 2 architectures, codenamed Vega and Navi. And we are focusing on various things, and at an appropriate time, we'll be detailing out all these architectures for you. Now let's look at what's happening on the performance per dollar, which is another key metric. Okay, the performance per dollar hasn't been tracking the Moore's law very well, so we need to do something different. Actually, you look at the mainstream, performance per dollar looks better than the high-end performance per dollar. Okay, so we are taking a look at all of these patterns, and we have 100x, greater than 100x increase in pixel rate, and photorealism makes it 1,000,000 times harder. GPU advances alone are not enough, and we need game engines plus GPU collaboration to kind of, get us to the immersive era. And that's the reason why we are here. That's the basis for the Capsaicin. And what you're going to hear rest of, the appetizer session is some of the collaborations that are happening to get us there. And one of the key initiatives we got to usher this era is GPU Open. GPUs have been stuck behind proprietary black box closed interfaces for a long time on the PC side. And we see tremendous amount of interesting innovation with limited hardware resources going on game consoles. We have had direct experiences on those game consoles. So GPU Open is our initiative, and some of the focus areas that my call to action for the developers in this room is these are some of the areas that are very important. Multi-GPU. Why is multi-GPU important? Performance scaling is super important. As you saw in the performance per dollar curve, the smaller GPUs track better with Moore's law, right? So if you want to deliver performance at lower dollar cost, a couple of years from now, multi-GPU is here to stay. I know that it is very difficult for game engines to take easy advantage of that stuff, but we will help you. We have libraries in GPU Open that will be coming up to help you. We have done quite a bit of work in the past 15 years with algorithms in like AFR, SFR, and all, but there are new algorithms that need to be invented for the new rendering techniques that you guys will be coming up with. HDR, we need to make as an industry a transition to HDR. FreeSync is an amazing technology where you don't need to waste your pixel rate. You can match your pixel rate to render rate. Multi-rate shading is, do we need to run complex pixel shaders at every pixel? That's one way. Leverage of the new APIs, DX12 and Vulkan. True Audio Next, there is a really good demo upstairs. Three-dimensional audio inside games, and particularly with VR experience is super important. OpenVX, we put the entire OpenVX implementation out in open source. This is really great for image processing. AI, acceleration of AI in GPUs, I'm very excited about the incredible possibilities of it. I think if you've been following some of the news, the most exciting thing I've heard last week, we saw Torch, which is the AI engine from Google integrated into Unreal 4. You'll see more and more of that engine integration of AI going on, and GPUs accelerate AI. Tools are super important for developers, and we are putting out many tools, completely open source for you, and compilers as well, for you being able to express your favorite languages that are inside the game engines on the GPU. So that's the basis for GPU Open, and you'll see a ton of excitement in the developer community. In fact, since we launched the GPU Open website a few weeks ago, our developer engagement and the amount of time that the developers spend on AMD site has increased 300%, right, in just a short amount of time. And we have, and if they see the lineup of things that are coming up in the rest of the year, incredible what we're doing with GPU Open. So what you'll see the rest of the show is that we are extremely serious about VR, and the best experiences and expanding the ecosystem and enabling the developers. So one of the themes of this Capsaicin event is expanding the ecosystem. Okay, and we are working with several partners. Okay, we have listed the partners who are here with us at this event today, and you'll see some of them on the stage talking about their work, and you'll get to mingle with the rest of them during the after party. So, to kick off what our partners are doing, you'll recognize this partner. They have some of the most prestigious franchises in gaming industry. And please welcome Chris Early, Vice President of Digital Publishing, Ubisoft. Chris.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, and good afternoon. Ubisoft looks at new hardware as an opportunity to create innovative new experiences for our players. We've done that since the beginning of our existence. And the idea is to surprise and delight our players while we create new experiences each step of the way. We do that by focusing on adopting new platforms early, and by getting out there quickly, and with new platforms and new technologies, we can actually create new experiences and try new things. A good example of that is when we made Rayman. Michel Ancel in 1995 made Rayman for the PlayStation. Now, unfortunately, at that time, there wasn't enough processing power to animate everything. So he was left with no arms and no legs. Right? We just did, disembodied hands and disembodied feet. And it was a bit of a risk because, is this going to work? Are people going to respond to it? Well, they did. We ended up creating an iconic character which helped define the path of where Ubisoft was going. And today, it's great. Rayman, it looks a lot better, higher res, but still has no arms and legs. Although probably he wishes that back then we had some of today's AMD GPUs to get things going. But today, we continue to innovate, or say over time, we continue to innovate, looking at new technologies along the way, looking at the Wii motion controllers when we got people dancing with Just Dance, and the Kinect sensor, which could actually read a heartbeat, or would actually, do full motion scanning to get people exercising with Shape Up. And so today, we're proud to be early into the VR side of things as well, at least early for a publisher like our size. We believe in the power of VR. And there's no exception to our fascination with new technologies here. We think that there's a huge opportunity for change in the way people play when we think about VR. It lets our creatives try new things, experiment with new ways of telling stories, look at new ways of creating experiences for our players to create those compelling experiences that completely envelop them. And we also think that VR has the opportunity to attract new audiences to video gaming as well, making it easier to access games and a new intuitive way of interacting with those games themselves. A great example of that is Eagle Flight, a title that we launched, or that we announced in December of last year. And it essentially lets people take to the skies. This is where the video should roll. It lets people take to the skies as an eagle, bringing them the freedom of flight. It's developed by a team out of Montreal, our Funhouse studio. And essentially, the player becomes an eagle flying over Paris and its iconic landmarks. It's 50 years after humans have left Paris. Nature and wildlife rule, and it creates an incredible experience of free flight for the player. It's a great experience because it's both single player and multiplayer modes. Now, the game itself is controlled by your head motion. You look where you want to fly, and you tilt your head more one way or the other if you want to bank more. Now, that was pretty good. I got that right in time with the video there, didn't I? The game is super accessible. You just had the tutorial on how to play. Right? So I encourage you to stop by and play it while you're here at GDC. That brings us also, the fact that you're controlling it with your head brings ease and comfort to the play as well. Because if you think about what helps comfort the most, we can just keep that going. Think about comfort, it's your head motion that goes. The size of your head motion, though, is really critical. And that's why, for us to keep things going, we really have to work on minimizing photon to pixel to photon latency. Right? By doing that, we can't risk a lag in what the player sees when they move their head. Otherwise, it suddenly becomes not as comfortable. Right? We also have to work on making sure we have a consistent frame rate to each eye, right, all the time. And it's the processing power and the graphics capabilities that let us do this from AMD's GPUs and Liquid VR. And they take this head on. And it lets us make these amazing video or virtual reality experiences. And it's actually AMD's DirectX support as well that helps us make our regular games look a lot better too, like the upcoming Watch Dogs 2. So we have a variety of VR projects on the horizon. At Sundance earlier, we announced a collaboration with Elijah Wood's motion picture studio, SpectraVision, and we'll have a project coming out of there. There's a secret title that's being announced at our own press event later on this afternoon, so I can't talk about that yet. And we have another surprise that you'll hear about even here this afternoon in a little bit. We have got many more projects that we're not going to talk about today, so you stay tuned And we'll count on partners like AMD that'll really help us make a more immersive and better gameplay experiences with their graphics capabilities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Chris. That was a wonderful demo. It's actually, it's been, I had for years a recurring dream that, I fly, and one of the constant fears in the dream that I wake up is that, like, your energy runs out. Something that's powering your battery runs out, and what happens? How do you land, right? And and then I wake up. But now, that dream stopped. Now all we worry about is this motion to photon latency. How do we kind of make sure that we don't drop frames because on the because of the GPU or our drivers? So amazing demo. I want to try that. Before I get off the stage, I know a lot of you came here to see Polaris in action. So we're going to do a Polaris 10 demo, and Omar here is going to come up on stage. And is that the Polaris box? You want me to unveil the thing? Thanks, Omar. So we'll show you the first Polaris demonstration ever. And this is our first FinFET GPU, 2.5 times performance per watt. And Omar, show us what you got there.
All right. So what we have right here is Hitman running on DirectX 12 on Polaris 10 at 1440p 60 FPS. Smooth as butter. This machine will be available upstairs after for you to have a look at and see yourself. Very smooth. Next generation Polaris 10. Hitman DirectX 12. All right.
Cool. That looks amazing. The the guy wearing that turtleneck and going around, I don't know if he's good guy or bad guy, but he reminded me, he looks like our chief gaming scientist, Richard Huddy. Who thinks that he looks like Richard Huddy? Who wants to see our chief? Actually, we have somebody with the title scientist. I was kind of the fake scientist wearing the robe. So I'd like to welcome our chief scientist, Richard Huddy, to take us through the next section on DX12 and gaming. Please welcome Richard onto the stage.
Thank you, Roger.
Richard,
thank you very much.
the clicker and behave.
Behave? Oh no, I don't think so. Oh no, I don't think so. Has anyone lost anything recently? There's been a report of a burglar or some such in the audience. You want to check your pockets, make sure you still got your cell phones, your laptops, because somebody's made off with Roger Kaduri's moustache. He's been burgled. You take a close look. I mean, how can you do that? Stealing it from right under his nose as well. Okay, so I am Richard Huddy, AMD's chief gaming scientist. I am here today to talk a little about DX12, about the new APIs which are arriving now in 2016. So if we take a look at the last couple of years, I know you've had a lot of graphs and stuff like that, but this one's a relatively easy one to watch. The very first Mantle title arrived in Q1 2014. That was Battlefield 4. Since then, we've seen Metal, which was announced some 6 months later or so, another low-level API. We have seen a terrific adoption of DX12, which arrived at the beginning of 2015. That's the first title that shipped. Built upon Mantle is Liquid VR. I don't think it's obvious to everyone, but we are indeed still using Mantle to take ourselves well into the future. And Vulkan, for those of you who've watched the API transitions over this last couple of years, you'll know that Vulkan titles are about to arrive as well. So a real change in the way the industry was. Up until Q1 2014, there was just an announcement from AMD that we would do Mantle, and we could do what we would do what we could to change the landscape for APIs. We wanted to make sure that all that hardware that we build, all the goodness inside it is available to each and every games player. And I think that we've done a pretty bang-up job of that. Certainly 2 years on, the world looks really significantly different. We take a look at the first DX12 games. I think the very first title to arrive was 3D Mark the throughput test, but we have a couple of really terrific games. Ashes of the Singularity, we've made quite a lot of noise about it. Terrific early adoption of the tech, really talented engineers pushing the hardware super hard, and we see that you get kind of benefits of 25, 30%. In the best cases, the benefits of moving to DX12 are kind of 100% and more. We'll bring Dan Baker, who's the engineer in there, to come and testify to the goodness of that. And those of you who've been watching will have seen over the last week or so that Hitman was released with its DX12. You've seen it just played on Polaris 10, which is really cool. And it comes as no surprise to us that we have done exceedingly well in those benchmarks. DX12 remains a fantastic place for AMD to play. We are hugely supportive of the arrival of DX12, and we're extremely optimistic about 2016. Now, we have a bunch of titles which are coming on DX12. These are some of the announced titles. We may try and get on to some other titles, too, in the conversation. So we have Battlezone, favorite Atari game, one of my two favorite Atari games. I'm a huge Asteroids fan as well, and I guess I need to talk to Mr. Kingsley and see if he can get that one converted to VR or something like. Deus Ex, Mankind Divided, that's coming DX12. Frostbite is switching over to DX12 during 2016, and that's really impressive. Yeah, this is a hugely popular engine, very, very effective at taking advantage of all the capabilities of the hardware. So super stuff. Oxide, like I say, we have Dan Baker here, who's going to tell us a little bit about the decisions that they've made in that tech. So we have a really great 2016 coming on, and this is by no means all that's coming through that time. Now, for us, DX12 was a really big deal. We knew we had a lot of goodness that was in the hardware that was not really being exploited by DX11. We had all this good stuff since 2011, actually. We've been building superior technology using asynchronous compute and building engines which were able to do asynchronous compute. Everyone knows what asynchronous compute is, yeah? Yeah? None of you have any doubt. Anyone got any doubts about what asynchronous compute is? Hint, if you put up your hand and say you don't know, it gives me an excuse to explain it, which might be handy for the live stream. Oh, look, there's someone who doesn't know what asynchronous compute is. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. So asynchronous compute is the ability to run compute and graphics simultaneously on the same piece of hardware. Now, as a general rule, a GPU doesn't do that kind of thing. It runs one task or another, and you switch from one to the next. And, you know, if it's quick at switching, then that can seem almost like simultaneous, but it isn't simultaneous. It's genuinely the case with these ACEs that we are able to run asynchronously a graphics task and a compute task simultaneously. And the result of that is a genuine benefit in performance. Best cases, we're seeing kind of plus 40%. Fairly typical cases, we're seeing plus 10 to plus 20. It's a really significant benefit. So no big surprise that we're wildly excited about asynchronous compute. And of course, the other primary benefit from my perspective to DX12 has been unleashing all this CPU power that was typically bottlenecked with DX11. Most DX11 apps get bottlenecked at some point on one CPU core. And we are so pleased to really unleash all of the horsepower that's in our GPUs and our CPUs. All of that goodness is something we want to expose. So having said that, let me invite up Chaz Boyd, Principal Program Manager from the Windows Device Group, Dan Baker, CEO of Oxide, who's the engineer behind the engine, and Tim Heaton, who's the Studio Director for Creative Assembly. Gentlemen, would you join me on the stage, please? Thanks, sir. Excellent. That's not a microphone. Excellent. So thank you for joining me. I wanted to start with one really straightforward question for all of you. So same question to all, though it'll mean different things. Chaz, you're the guy who brought DirectX 12 to market. Why DirectX 12?
Well, up until now, the developers had really, I think, exploited a lot of the functionality that was available through DX11. And this new architecture, when we found that the new hardware capabilities that were out there in the ecosystem that could enable an even more direct level of access by the developer, then we have to do that. That's our middle name, right? DirectX. So That was the main.
It's the driving principle, to expose all of the goodness as directly as possible.
Yeah, and the thing we realize now is that from a developer perspective, it really eliminates some of their sort of psychological concerns, because in the DX11 model, there's this driver underneath that you really don't understand that well. And with DX12, you have a much more clear understanding of it. So it makes it much more just comprehensible, and you feel better about being able to target that.
Yeah, we talk about these APIs being explicit, and this is a really good example of it, where you can see all of the hardware underneath the API much more clearly. Terrific.
Helps you sleep at night.
Okay, so Dan, for you, why DX12?
Really simple. Like, it enables us to build games that we couldn't make before. Fundamentally, there are a lot of limitations we're running into a DX11, and the worst thing to do for us is to go into a room meeting with your designer, and they want to make a game, and you have to tell them, I don't think we can do that because DX11 is not going to work. And DX12 has just opened up the door for us to do all sorts of exciting things that I don't think anyone's seen yet. So
you have favorite technical features in DX12 that let you do that good stuff?
Some of the exciting things about DX12 are, as Taz alluding to, the explicit control. So multi-threading capabilities are amazing. The explicit multi-GPU is something we're really excited about, and we've shown some extremely exciting results. And asynchronous compute is something that we're also extremely excited about. In addition to the performance benefits that we've seen that are very easy to get, there's enormous amounts of rendering architecture that we can do in the future that will be announcing at some point, hopefully.
Okay, very cool. All right, so Tim, with a very different perspective as a studio director, why DX12?
Because developers like control. I think it's all about control. DX12 changes the paradigm a bit.
Everyone on the stage here is a control freak in their spare time. Yeah, you're right.
Absolutely, and we can do more. And like our Total War games have very particular sets of challenges, I think, with our massive battles. The more that we can talk to the metal, the more that we can use those features, it means that we can just make better games.
Good stuff. Okay, so looking forward, you have, what kind of anticipation level do you have for DX12 this year, Chaz?
I have to say it's very gratifying to see the level of uptake. I mean, we haven't seen this kind of level of interest, really. It's sort of a tidal wave of innovation here that we're seeing. And a lot of the features that we were exposing in this new API, we were concerned about whether there would be time for your developer to be able to take advantage of those. And yet what we find is as soon as they hear about them, they're scrambling to adopt those features. And it's an amazing sort of frenzy out there right now with developers competing with each other to be the first to implement these new features.
So Dan talks about multi-GPU, and that's something that excites and energizes a lot of developers?
Yeah, that they're finally realizing that if you just go out and target the hardware that's in your machine, you can actually exploit all the hardware that's in your machine, not just the part of it that the driver would allow you before.
Terrific. Okay, so Dan, looking forwards, what do we got from you guys?
Oh, we'll see all sorts of things from us. I'm proud to announce that there are already multiple games in production with our engine. Star Control has been announced and is in production with Nitrous, and you're going to see some interesting stuff from us. I think that it's so open-ended for what you can do. Like, we've just barely tapped into some of the functionality. I think that you're going to see some exciting, more low latency rendering. You're going to see really innovative things from the VR space. There's a lot of things that Control and DirectX 12 is going to give you that we haven't even thought up yet.
Cool indeed, cool. So Tim, is there anything in your future that you might like to talk about, perhaps?
So we have Total War Warhammer out on May the 24th, and we can announce today that that's going to be fully DX12 compatible.
Any chance we could take a look? And good job, guys, good job.
So this is some in-engine cinematics from Total War Warhammer. It's the first fantasy game that we've done with Total War. After 16 years of making historical themes, this uses a Games Workshop IP, huge worlds, flying units, giants, massive spiders, really changes the way that Total War plays. You can see here, we have typically 10,000 characters on a battlefield at once. And with these kind of huge, complex environments that we build too, DX12 is really going to help that.
Terrific. So thank you. A new DX12 game announcement on stage We quite like that kind of stuff, don't we? Guys, thank you very much. I'm going to thank you there. Thank you, Chaz, Dan, and Tim. Much obliged. Thank you. Very good. So we have some quite promising stuff that's on its way over 2016. Where's the other place to go? I guess the other API, which is being worked on at the moment, if I can advance the slide, is Vulkan. Now, those of you who have watched the evolution of the APIs will know that the Kronos group has been quite vocal about saying how well we've done in helping to create this API. And it's exciting for us to be able to say that Crow team are coming with the Talos principle later this year. I'm not personally familiar with the exact timetable on that, but I'm sure Nick Theberos, who's going to be our next speaker, will be able to cover that for you. I think this is a pretty exciting time for gaming. So maybe now is a good time for me to hand over to Nick Theberos. Nick Theberos is Senior Manager in Game Engineering. He's a very talented guy who runs a tremendous team of engineers, really, really great support for games developers. He looks after games developers, and he looks after them, if necessary, in a Mary Poppins kind of way, where he's giving them a spoonful of sugar, helping them through difficult times. And if they won't do what's required, he looks after them in a Robert De Niro kind of way, which is maybe a little bit more insistent and compelling. Nick, can I welcome you to the stage, please?
Well, thank you, Richard, for this introduction. I don't need to introduce myself now. All right, I want to talk to you guys about a specific number. 16. 16 is not the number of times that Richard just coughed during his presentation, and 16 is not the number of game titles that got ruined as a result of GameWorks integration. 16, though, is a very interesting number for game developers. It's the number of milliseconds that they have to pack as much performance and as much quality into each frame of their game so that they can reach this magic threshold of 60 frames per second. 16 milliseconds to render mountains, whole cities, villages, lakes. 16 milliseconds to render all geometries, shadows, reflections, post-processing, compute-based simulation, all those things. Now, if you're dealing with console development, managing this budget is already pretty difficult, but on PC, it's even harder. On PC, components tend to vary. You may have a GPU with different amounts of performance, different amounts of memory. The graphic settings may be different based on what the user wants, the graphics resolution. But at the end of the day, on PC gaming, you really want your 60 frames per second. So when you see all those games, those beautiful graphics, it can be easy sometimes to forget the insane amount of work that goes on behind the scenes. We're talking months of research and development to invent new techniques. We're talking lots of collaboration between ISVs, with IHVs. We're talking potentially weeks trying to shave off maybe a quarter of a millisecond just so that you can fit that performance into your budget. So at AMD, we really want to help developers. We want to help developers get the best out of those 16 milliseconds. And GPU Open is the way we do this. So we created GPU Open to empower developers. And the whole initiative is based on 3 principles. The first principle, we need to enable developers and get them closer access to the GPU. Now, as a game developer, your mind tends to be very inquisitive. You need to understand how the hardware works. That's the only way you're going to get the best out of it. So it's time to open up the GPU. If you look at console games, once again, they tend to be super optimized. And that's because all the features tend to be exposed at the hardware level. On PC, it's not always the case. You may be limited by what the API gives you. So we're going to be looking at exposing those features from the current generation consoles, but also from upcoming GPUs. The second principle of GPU Open is a commitment to open source. Now, the vast majority of all the software components we're going to have, or we have, in GPU Open come the MIT license. The MIT license allows developers to not only access the source code, but to modify it, republish it, learn from it, and redistribute it. Only with the full access to source code are developers able to learn from the code and make it better. And that's the path to innovation. The third principle is a close engagement with the development community. All the source code that we have on GPU Open is hosted onto GitHub. GitHub is a collaborative portal where developers can not only download the source code, but also collaborate on it, make branch requests, pull requests. We're also doing regular blog posts, which means on a regular basis, we've got different staff at AMD releasing news, releasing information about upcoming hardware, about optimizations, and so on. Just this morning, I was pushing a new blog post about delta color compression, which is used in our latest GPUs. So GPU Open has several components. The first component is visual effects. Oops, sorry, I went too fast. Those visual effects come with a library and a sample that illustrates how to use the library. What's very important to mention here is that both come with full source code access. Trace effects would be a typical example of an effect. The second category are tools. Now, tools are the bread and butter of game development. And I'm not only talking about performance tools, which are critical, but also we have tools that help you with the creation of digital assets. Tutel, for instance, was released, I think 2 months ago, and allows you to optimize performance of your models. And that optimization works on everybody's hardware. It's not AMD specific. The third component, the third category, is libraries and SDKs. It's a collection of code samples that includes libraries, and they make rendering either more efficient or easier to manage. So we've got, for instance, the Liquid VR SDK belongs in this category. We have code samples to illustrate how to use D3D12. We have code samples to illustrate how to use our FireRes API. We've got a whole bunch of different things here. So what's new in GPU Open? Now, when we released GPU Open, that was at the end of January. And since then, we've been adding to it already. We've got a Vulkan driver, a fully conformant Vulkan driver with documentation that we released a few weeks ago. We also released the Crossfire API, which let developers access and control all the GPUs under DX11. And we've been releasing blog posts once a week at least, providing information and insight about what goes on behind the scenes at AMD. And now, we are updating the program again. We are focusing on the areas that developers have asked us for. TraceFX is going to see more updates from us. It continues to be the most efficient and best-looking implementation of hair rendering and simulation out there. And we want to make it better. And we're going to keep making it better. We're going to expose, that's very important, Vulkan shader extensions. Now, if you look at console development, you've got a lot more instructions available to control the GPU compared to what you have on PC. We are going to be exposing those shader extensions on Vulkan and also D3D12 and D3D11. With this, we're going to allow developers to easily port from consoles to PC and take advantage of all those optimizations that we are seeing on consoles. Geometry effects is another effect we've been working on. It allows developers to optimize the rendering of their geometries. We've seen a lot of interest already from developers about this, and we are making it better and adding more features to it. CodeXL, which is our debugging and performance tool, now comes with full source code. The full source code is included for developers to access, modify, fix if there's any issue. And obviously, they have a way to control the performance of their game this way. AMD Compress is our texture compression library, again, provided with full source code. Very high quality. It provides very high quality textures and very fast, very optimized. And by providing the full source code, we allow developers to, again, potentially modify it and make it better if they want to. And finally, DirectX 12. You heard Richard. Yeah? DX12 is very important to us. We are porting our effects to the DX12 API. So you can expect those changes within the next 4 weeks. So all those new effects, all those new updates are furthering our mission to make PC development more open, more transparent, and easier for developers. Now, AMD has many partners and that I like to call friends in the industry who really value the GPU open approach that we've decided to undertake. And today, I'm really pleased to be joined by two of them. So please give a warm welcome to Arnie from DICE, and also Jean Normand from Square Enix Montreal, sorry, to join me on stage. Annie? All right. All right, thank you guys for coming. Really appreciate it.
Very happy to be here.
Can you tell us, Arnie, can you tell us a bit more about yourself first?
Hello, I'm Arne Schober, and I'm rendering engineer at DICE, working on games like Battlefront and Battlefield.
Jean-Armand?
I am Jean-Armand Bucci. I'm the Square Enix West R&D director in a department called Labs. We are based off of ADOS Montreal, and the purpose of this department is to provide the 3 Western studio with technologies.
Great. All right, so I'm going to ask you guys a few questions, and I'll start with Arne. So, Arne, obviously you work for DICE. Why do you think it's so important to have full control of your source in your game?
For us, it's very important to have some agile development, so we have rapid turnaround times on fixing issues. And if you just have a black box, it's hard for us to understand how it actually works. So having the source code makes it easier for us to understand, to expand, and optimize the code.
Makes sense. Jean-Armand?
Yeah, it's very similar as Arnie. I'm thinking about 3 reasons. Scalability, reactivity, innovation. Things change fast in the game dev, and it's sometimes code changes or even game design changes that bring these fluctuations to your product. And you want to be able to react according to your own team's velocity and will to fix these issues and not to rely on anyone else. Scalability, you invest so much in those solutions that you want to be able also to get the most out of it and make these solution or feature maybe the studio features that you'll carry around for a long time. And for myself, an innovation and an R&D department, it's important to make that solution scale over time and adapt to the game's reality.
Yeah, that sounds good. My next question, again, starting with Arne. I mean, we've been working together for quite some time, DICE and AMD, obviously similarly with Square Enix Montreal. You know, can you describe a bit the process of, you know, what is the benefits of ISVs working together with IHVs?
I think the IHVs are the ones who know the hardware just best. They know all the strengths and weaknesses of the hardware, and we had many, many enlightening talks with the IHVs, especially with the hardware architects. And that is why together we can help each other to define our common future.
Absolutely. I mean, you guys in particular have been pretty instrumental in the whole Mantle creation a few years ago. So
Thank you for letting us in.
Jean-Armand?
Yeah, on my side, being an R&D department, working on many different projects at the same time, many different games, we don't always have the same hardware team, but the game team are the one who really do those deals with the different hardware provider. And I think that I'll say, like Arne is saying, it really allows us to fully use the hardware available and vice versa to exploit its full potential.
All right. So my next question will be, again, to Arne. Can you explain, in particular for PC gamers, how the GPU hardware on PC could benefit from what you have today on consoles?
There are a lot of console features that not yet have been exposed to the PC. For example, with the shader extensions in GPU Open, we get access to the scalar processor, and that will allow us to squeeze out the last bit of performance out of existing hardware.
Okay, Jean-Armand?
Yeah, PC games are very important for ADOS Montreal and Square Enix, and we've teamed up with a well-renowned company called Nixus to make sure that we provide the best solution to our customers. I think that, yeah, that's really, we're relying on them to make sure that we have the best PC game out there. And any bridge, any time those platforms are getting closer one another, I think that's for the benefit of every gamer and everyone.
Yep, that makes sense. And another question for you, Jean-Armand, in particular. So you guys did great work, great job, sorry, taking TraceFX. You took it on board, you made it your own, you made it better, you added features to it. Can you describe the process of how this worked out for you?
Yeah, sure. As an R&D team, we keep our eyes open to everything that's available, either publicly accessible or through partnership. Partnering with AMD is a long story with ADOS Montreal. Since the very first game that was released, there's X-Human Revolution. But regardless of those partnerships, we looked at what was the state-of-the-art technology available out there, and it happens to be at our sister studio, Crystal Dynamics, that we found an AMD TressFX integration in their code. So we grabbed that, made it our own, and created Pure Air out of this. And what's nice with this is the fact that we had been able, because of the open source code, to shape it for one partner and then work on it again and make it work for a different partner who had different needs. And I think that's the beauty of it.
Great. And on a similar theme, Arne, what do you think of, how do you think the industry is reacting to open source in general?
With open source, we can solve problems together instead of individually across the entire industry. And GPU Open has open source content, and we as Electronic Arts are doing the same with some of our libraries, such as EASTL.
Great. No, it's great to see you guys embracing open source as well. And to finish up, I've got a couple of, I've got one question to each of you. First with Arne, what games are you playing right now, and why?
I'm currently playing XCOM 2 in Iron Man mode because I like to think strategically and like to plan ahead and find the best solution for any given problem without any time constraints.
Sounds good.
I think Arne has a lot more time than me. Right now, I'm playing the wake up in the middle of the night game. My second kid, the 7-month-old baby boy, has vanished all of the free time I have. But of my wish list, I'd say games such as Unravel, Firewatch are games that I'd like to give it a shot. The Division, of course, looking forward for Quantum Break. Hitman, an awesome game. Put your hands on it. And diehard fan of the NHL 15 minutes game. That suits my schedule. I'm Canadian. What to expect?
All right. Well, thank you very much, guys, for coming. I really appreciate you being here today.
Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you. All right, now we're going to be watching a short video about how VR is changing people's lives.
When we at AMD think about VR, we think about the applications that have the ability to elevate people's daily lives. Education, medicine, cinema, gaming. When this technology gets in the hands of consumers, they're going to use it in ways we haven't even imagined yet.
We're finally able to transform students from the classroom to a virtual space that is never thought possible, like the bottom of the ocean on a shipwreck, or maybe the first flight by the Wright brothers. So there's a historical aspect, there's an educational aspect. The possibilities are limitless.
We can use this kind of simulation technology for pro-social purpose, for mental health, rehabilitation, learning. VR is an evocative technology. It can bring out emotions that sometimes can't come out in other ways.
With VR, we're blurring the lines between virtual production and game creation and filmmaking. Filmmakers are able to use these headsets to streamline the production process. So when they can see the assets, the compositions, the actual environments, they know how to make them even more immersive for the audience.
So this is just the beginning for VR. It is a game changer, and AMD's right there.
Hello, hello, hello. Oh my goodness, I can't tell you, I am so excited. I'm like an 8-year-old boy at Christmas. You would think after doing this for a long time that I wouldn't still get as excited, but I am. I am absolutely thrilled. And the reason I'm so thrilled is because VR is so exciting. There's so many new things. It's changing the rules. It's bending the rules. It is just thrilling. But I know that there are one or two of you out there that don't believe me. There are some skeptics. So I'm sometimes asked, why is it that I'm so passionate about VR, that AMD is so passionate about VR, and why is it different this time? Well, I believe there are 3 reasons why it's different this time. The first is the technology. Today's headsets are really quite excellent. They're fantastic. And we believe they're going to get even better in the near future. The technology is good, and we know it, and we're excited about it. Our job, all of us and all of you online, is to try and get as many people to try it as possible. We know the technology is good. The second reason is some of the brightest minds, greatest engineers, best storytellers, and content creators are working on it. And the third reason is they're able to because of the investment in VR. The investment in VR of billions and billions of dollars is enabling those storytellers to bring VR to life. Now, it's Games Developer Conference, it's GDC. And always, of course, we focus on the game developers who we love. But this year, there's a new set of people at the show. And there's a new set of people in the audience. And those are companies, content creation companies, using game engines and 360 video to use VR in a new medium, which we call VR experiences. Over the last 18 months, we've seen Paramount Pictures work with Beast Media and VR Works to produce the Paranormal Activity VR experience. We've seen the Jurassic World VR experience. And recently, we saw 20th Century Fox with the Martian VR experience. These experiences are being put together by studios and companies that perhaps we haven't always engaged with at GDC. Companies like The Third Floor and a VR company, Secret Location, to produce the Emmy Award-winning Sleepy Hollow, IM360, Specular Theory. These companies we welcome to our world, and we welcome the chance to support them and interact them in creating content. And behind these companies, we're also pleased to tell you that we're working with leading universities around the world and their film schools. USC Film School, Chapman University Film School, Carnegie Mellon Film School, because we believe that they will have the students to tell the next generation of stories. Now, so far for our engagement, that's terrific. But we won't want to just go and shake hands. We want to try and help them make wonderful content. 1 year ago at GDC, we announced Liquid VR. Now, 1 year ago, any discussion about VR inevitably led to a comment about motion sickness. Now, our job is not yet done, but today, thanks to Liquid VR and the efforts of all of you engaged in VR, we don't talk about that as much or at all. Liquid VR is available as source code, as you heard Nick say, at GitHub, and has been downloaded thousands of times, and is now being used in major VR content creation. So that's software. We also added asynchronous compute, which Nick mentioned, and I'm pleased to tell you this is also being used in the creation of VR content. And so we're very pleased about that and very excited about it. But one of the things that storytellers want to do is not to be inhibited, not to have a restriction on the stories they tell. They don't want to be told they can't put things into a scene. They don't want to be told something can't be done. So we were pleased in Liquid VR to enable multi-GPU support so the scaling would be there for content creation and consumption without limits. But that's game engine VR. One of the things we've also seen is the exciting introduction of new cameras, such as from Jaunt VR, which allow us to film in 360 VR to create other new kinds of experience. This requires very high quality video stitching, graphics cards with very large frame buffers, and we're engaging very hard with all of the VR stitching companies and ecosystem to equally enable 360 VR. Now, the other thing that sometimes gets said about us is, you know, you're awfully nice chaps at AMD, and you make really good hardware, and today, world-class software, but you're sometimes a little shy. Well, let me tell you that we're not going to be shy anymore. I'm pleased to tell you that we will, as of today, have our VR-ready premium program so that content creators can identify the best hardware rigs and the best systems to create content on, and consumers can enjoy, without compromise, the best possible VR experience. However, great hardware, great software, and great relationships don't mean anything unless you have the support of all of you and key partners in your ecosystem. And so I'm very pleased to share with you two important partners for AMD, and I'd like to invite on stage Dan O'Brien, VP of VR for HTC, and Kevin Frost, VP and General Manager of HP Consumer Personal Systems. Please give them a warm welcome. All right, I'm going to ask them a couple of questions. So let me start, first of all, with you, Dan. Recently at the Vision Summit, you surprised the audience by giving everybody there a HTC Vive. You surprised them and delighted them. Yep. What can you tell the audience here? And don't forget, there's a lot of people watching online. What can you tell them about availability for the Vive?
Well, you know, that was a great event. Gabe did an amazing job and really excited everybody. And we're continuing. You know, we made a promise to the developer community at that point that we would be giving out several thousands of units. We're continuing to do that. We're seeing super, you know, great progress from the dev community and, you know, in the content creation for the Vive. And a lot of that comes with partnerships with you guys on the Liquid VR, and we're really proud of that. And we will be continuing to talk to the developer community and giving out those units for everybody to continue to develop.
That'll be music to the community's ears. Kevin, let me turn to you. We know that HP is very committed to VR and making a big investment in it. Can you tell us why particularly and why what VR excites you?
Sure. First, Roy, I want to thank you so much and the AMD team for having us at this event. And I also want to thank HTC. You know, we're partnering with HTC to give customers the best Vive experience, and they're great. I'm on the stage with two great technology partners, so it truly is an honor and a privilege to be here. But at HP, one of our missions is to give customers, particularly retail consumer customers, great computing experiences. And if you look at the potential of VR, it has a potential to give customers experiences that they never even thought about. And that's the risk and the challenge and the opportunity, because really until you put the headset on, it's very, very hard to even imagine all the possibilities. So HP will focus on gaming early on and very fastly or very quickly move over to like some commercial segments, education segments. HP is doubling down on gaming. We've got a major gaming PC launch scheduled for later this year. And so it's just a very, very good fit.
It's so exciting to see you come into this area. Thank you for the kind comments. Dan, you talked about supporting the developer community, which of course is absolutely fantastic. But tell us a little bit about how you feel about content and what content excites you.
You know, all together, I mean, you know, for the developers that are in the audience, we want to say a huge thank you for everything that you guys have put forth, the commitments that you've put into it. You know, here at GDC this year, we're actually going to be revealing a lot of new content for the Vive. With Valve and at the Steam booth, please definitely come by. We're already committed to over 50 experiences at launch for the Vive system, and we're showing over 30 new content pieces, you know, here.
Sorry, was that 30 or 50?
Over 30 for
30, okay.
At GDC. And so there's a lot of new content for developers and for the press and media and consumers to really get excited about. And this is really, really foundational for us. If you asked us 2 years ago how many things we thought we were going to have at launch, it wasn't this many.
That's really wonderful. And so, back to yourself, Kevin. Of course, you've made great systems. You're famous for the quality of your systems. But what specifically are you doing for the VR experience at HP?
There's really three focus areas that HP is prioritizing for VR. And one is just the first customer experience. That is making sure the technology from HTC, the technology from AMD, making sure you buy one of our VR-ready PCs, get it home, it sets up, it's easy to use, the software images, performance optimized, the drivers are there. So first of all, just making sure the basic day one experience is good. And frankly, we love to partner with content folks as well to actually pre-install some great content on the PC. Second thing we're doing is more longer term focused on innovation. You can imagine, you know, the VR headset today and the cables behind you and things like that, there's opportunity to improve that experience over time, just in terms of, frankly, the hardware aspects of VR. And then longer term, we're very focused on just what I call marketing and distribution. So for example, tomorrow I'm meeting with all of our largest retailers in America. This is the Best Buys, the Costco's, the Amazons. We have HTC set up. We're going to walk, I personally, well, one of my folks will actually walk all those retail merchandising people through the HTC headset, through the demo, and we're actually talking to them, hey, how can I put this on your floor? How can we communicate these benefits to customers? How can we make this across the chasm and more of a mainstream technology? So we're very, very engaged sort of at all points of the customer journey with VR.
That's really wonderful. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Please give them a warm hand. Thank you for coming on stage. Thanks, guys. Thank you. Okay, so you heard a lot about DirectX 12 in games. But DirectX 12 isn't only going to be used in games. This low-level API is going to be essential, and again, I'm going to repeat this, unleashing the storytellers. Let the storytellers free. Let them not have to think about restrictions in technology. So DirectX 12 in VR, also really, really important. But don't take my word for it. Here to tell you more about using DirectX 12 in VR, I'd like to welcome on stage Chris Kingsley, co-founder and CTO of Rebellion.
Which seat shall I use? This one will do.
All right, Chris, I'm going to ask a simple question. VR. We're not talking about gaming now, we're talking about VR. You could have used DirectX 11, but you chose to use DirectX 12. Can you tell the guys why?
Well, it's quite a simple sort of choice, really. The issue with VR is that we're seeing that because we've got two screens, we've got twice as much data that we have to render. We've got to run at 90 to 120.
Bring the mic up.
Sorry, we've got to run at a 90 to 120 hertz, as well as having the two screens. We've got to have as small a latency as we possibly can. So we need the drawing to be responsive. So we need to work out how we can do that. If you think back 10 years, we'd have had a single CPU talking to a single GPU. Then over the years, we introduced sort of multiple CPUs and we multi-threaded the CPUs, but they were still talking to a single GPU. Now, with DirectX 12, we have the opportunity to have multiple GPUs and to effectively multi-thread the GPU. So we can have multiple CPUs talking with multiple GPUs. Asynchronous compute is effectively multi-threading for GPUs, and that's only something that we can do with DirectX 12.
That's fantastic. Is there anything you can do in DX12 you couldn't do at DX11 that we can particularly look forward to seeing?
For us, it's just about using all the special, the time that is otherwise wasted. DirectX 11 is great, but there are times when you just can't do, there's just times when the GPUs are just sitting idle. We've been able to do some interesting new lighting techniques. We have a technique called ambient obscurance that we can do very, very quickly on asynchronous compute. And by the way, AMD hardware is really good at async compute.
Well, thank you.
It really shines. And actually, with some of our traditional shadow techniques, we've effectively been able to get them for free because it's just time that otherwise wasn't being used.
Well, you've been kind to come and talk to us today. You want to talk a little bit about Battlezone?
Oh, yeah, Battlezone. Well, what can I say about Battlezone? It was one of my favorite games when I was a kid. I can, to this day, still see the arcade game in the actual arcade where I first played it and where I kept playing it. Then the opportunity came up a couple of years ago to buy it from Atari, and we said, hey, yeah, let's do it. And at that same time, we started to see kind of the resurgence of interest in VR. And it seemed to us like the logical solution. You know, Battlezone was really, it was like the first 3D game, it was the first first-person shooter, and arguably it was the first VR game as well. Hey, it was a time when you put your head onto the VR display as opposed to putting the VR display onto your head. But we thought that it lent itself really well. The gameplay, the game design was perfect, we felt, for VR. And so we're excited to say that we're bringing that back, all new sort of a look and feel, and I think people will really love it.
Well, I've tried it, and I can tell you, everybody, it's really good, and I can't wait for it to come to market. Chris, thank you so much.
Thanks, Roy.
Thank you. And with that, I'd like to hand over to my friend and colleague, Mr. Chris Hook. Hello.
Hey, good one. You can keep that. Okay, fantastic. So before we get started here, I'm going to tell you about a little game we're going to play later on, which I think is going to be a lot of fun, okay? It's called the Capsaicin Challenge. Now, does anybody here like insanely, and I mean insanely, spicy food? Anybody? Okay, there's sort of, that's kind of a so-so. There's 1, 2. Okay, excellent. We're going to take your names down. We're going to be approaching you a little bit later on, because the way this works is if you can eat more scorpion peppers than my boss, Raja Kaduri, you're the new king. You are king of the castle. You win the prize. You have the championship. Now, you guys up for that? Is somebody going to get some people who are willing to get up here and take on Raja in the Capsaicin Challenge? Okay, now these are relatively mild scorpion peppers. They're only 900,000 Scoville units. But the one thing you should know about Raja is that he's only lost the title once, and this was back in 2008. So it's tough competition, and actually I'm going to show you an image from the guy who won. Okay, this is an ECG that was done in the back of an ambulance in Monterey, but I know none of you will have that problem, so it's going to be all good. All right, so a bit about me. You know, I started at ATI 15 years ago, and then of course AMD, and actually I remember one of the best launches we ever had was right here in this building at Ruby Sky, the R300 launch, which was a lot of fun. But you know, back then we were only about 4 years into the 3D graphics transition. So one of the things that gets me so excited about VR is that, you know, even though I've been around for 15 years, VR really is the first major graphics transition, the first major inflection point, really over a 20-year span. So that's super, super exciting. And you know, what makes me even more excited is to be doing it here at AMD. Because, you know, when you add up all the VR-enabled consoles and all the VR-enabled PCs, right, today, we have 83% of VR systems globally. So that's 83% of the world's non-cardboard systems running on Radeon or running on Graphics Core Next. But less than 1%, and this isn't going to surprise anybody, less than 1% of the world's total population today has VR-ready systems. So we have a lot of work to do to expand that ecosystem, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So growing the ecosystem, you heard Roy talk a little bit earlier about gaming and about entertainment and Hollywood, and that really at AMD is our bread and butter. But I also wanted to take some time today to talk about some of the other things that we're doing. You know, education, medicine, design, visualization, journalism, and in particular, I wanted to zero in on VR cafes, on VR journalism, and I'm noticing here, I see a VR camera there. There was a VR camera here earlier. That's a brand new thing, and I know for many of you in the audience who are journalists, that'll be an interesting thing to talk about. And of course, new form factors. So my first guest is going to be Dan Balachand, CEO of Sulon Technologies. Dan, welcome to the stage. Welcome. Okay. All right. You can't shake my hand. Now, Dan, I'm just guessing here. I'm just guessing here, but you look like you smuggled something onto the stage. What is that? Kind of what I'm hoping it is?
It is. It is.
Oh, awesome! Well, fantastic.
I'd like to introduce.
Very cool.
The Sulon Q, the world's first and only all-in-one tether-free headset for virtual reality, augmented reality, and spatial computing.
Very cool stuff. Very cool stuff. So, Dan, you're going to have to tell me what is under the hood.
There is a lot of stuff under the hood.
Okay.
Well, the biggest and the foremost, I guess, important thing is that it's inside this headset is an AMD FX 8800P processor, and with Radeon R7 graphics. It also runs next generation liquid VR technologies, and it all comes together with a Microsoft Windows 10 operating system. And it also has spatial audio powered by a Sound Sound.
Cool. So tell us about it. What can it do? How is it different than the headsets that we see in the market today?
Well, inside this headset is something called the spatial processing unit. The spatial processing unit actually, from the inside of the headset, maps the environment in real time dynamically all around you. And it does that very quickly and instantaneously. Here we have an example of some of the experiences that can be created. The environment is actually mapped in real time, and the AR object is overlaid onto the real scene. And what the system will do is actually dynamically virtualize the environment in real time as well. That means that it understands everything about the environment, right down to the minuscule pixel levels that it brings in. It's able to transform the environment into mixed reality experiences, and here you'll see the ground being torn up by the technology that's included in this all-in-one headset. The ceiling gets ripped up, and all these pieces are actually a part of this of your real environment. It doesn't just stop there. Eventually, we'll get into the VR level of the system. As you can see, all the crumbled parts of your living space is actually on the floor of this, surrounding this beanstalk.
So this is cool. So I can take my office, for example, and I can, keeping it sort of spatially real, sort of paint it however I want. I can have a beanstalk grow up through the middle of it, have the roof explode, just by putting that on.
This is not concept footage. This is actual footage.
Oh, wow.
And
That
this is
is
our
crazy.
front foyer of our Saloon headquarters.
Wow.
As we speed up a little bit of the areas for time's sake, the giant's going to come down and he's going to grab you at waist high. And then he's not going to leave you lightly. He's going to bring you up through that hole and take you into a virtual reality immersive environment. And this environment is completely beautiful, running off AMD technology, and it's able to produce stunning visual quality graphics running on an OLED 1440p display. And as it speeds up, you'll see that the environment around you is really well designed. It's really quite vibrant. And here's where, as the story goes, you can actually get the full video off the internet and with the full audio and audio-visual experience with this video, this demonstration.
Very, very
As you
cool.
saw there, for a brief moment, the player actually looked down at the room, and you can actually see the actual environment that you came out of. That was our office space. He's going to eventually put you back inside this environment.
Well, that's super, super cool.
Yep.
Well, thank you for coming here today, Dan. This is that mine? Do I get to keep that?
No, it's mine.
All right.
Get your own.
So good seeing you. Thanks again.
Thank
Take
you.
care. Okay, so another area where we see really a huge opportunity for global VR growth, and in fact, it's probably where the majority of the world's population is going to first see VR. It's the VR cafe. So a few years ago, we made a big play in iCafes in China. This was sort of the new gold rush, and that prior to seeing desktop gaming PC saturation in China and some other Asian countries, you had a big push to sort of build these location-based gaming environments. Now since then, though that opportunity has leveled out a little bit, but another reason that we're so excited about VR is that now those same iCafes are coming back to us saying, hey, how do we morph into a VR cafe? So that's something that a huge opportunity for us. It's an opportunity for you. It's something that we're investing a lot in right now, and it's something that we're really, really, really excited about. So, and it's again, it's a huge growth opportunity. We're seeing 142% annual growth rate in the China VR market between now and 2020. And in fact, there are already, I think there are 20 different companies doing headsets in China right now. So this is about to explode, and we're super excited about it. So the other new one is VR journalism. So AMD recently partnered with the Associated Press, and we are providing VR development platforms for journalism and for 360-degree news reporting. So super exciting stuff there. And I have a couple of guests to join me on the stage. Please welcome Nathan Griffiths, interactive editor of the Associated Press, and Sean Liu, product manager at Oculus. Hey, Nathan, well, good to see you again. Sean, great seeing you. All right, so maybe I'll start with you, Nathan. So I know the Associated Press has been doing journalism for 170 years, is that right?
That's correct,
you
yeah.
guys have been leaders in evolving journalism since then. The first to mobile and things like that. Is it any different making the transition to VR news gathering?
I mean, on the micro level, yes, very different. On the macro level, I'd say not so much. I mean, as you mentioned, AP is 170 years old. I mean, we've been kind of innovating in the technology space for that entire time. First company to use the radio telegraph, for instance, to transmit news, transmitting photos over the wire. So that's, I think the move into the VR space for news is not I would say it's not unexpected. I mean, we're always looking for new ways to bring stories closer to users, to engage users more, more powerful, more kind of empathetic ways that we can tell people's stories.
Very cool stuff. Now, Sean, Oculus is obviously known very, very well in the gaming space, the entertainment space. Is 360-degree video, is this an area that's interesting to you guys?
Yeah, so we've actually seen that people really enjoy videos on the VR platforms. And in fact, we crossed the 1 million hour mark for videos watched in Gear VR. Yeah, for us, videos are really a powerful way of connecting people. And so in Oculus, we're really trying to push the boundaries of the technology. And we're sort of focusing on like 3 big pieces. The first is the technology stack. So we're releasing dynamic streaming pretty soon, which allows streaming down of 6K video content. The second piece we're pushing on is the user experience. And we're investing a lot in social so that you can watch videos with other people while in VR. And pretty soon you'll be able to pull in content that you normally would see on the Facebook newsfeed. And the last piece is on content. So we've been working a lot with some big partners, be it Netflix, Twitch, and Vimeo to get good content. So we're pretty excited about video.
Very cool. Now, what are you looking for, Nathan, from the rest of the ecosystem? What kind of tools, GPU technologies, what are you looking for from the hardware ecosystem for that next step in VR journalism?
I would say for news, time is always of the essence. So what we're really excited about, working with AMD, and is the ability to kind of compress the post-production, the entire production process for news piece. If we do a small 5-6 minute documentary and that takes us kind of 2 weeks to do, that's fine for a feature piece, but if we're talking about breaking news, that kind of time frame is really not viable, right? We really want to look at ways that we can minimize the time it takes to do stitching. We want to minimize the time we need to spend doing post-production, rendering out finished products. And that's one area in particular, specifically as far as hardware is concerned, that we're really looking to improve, I guess, the performance and really maximize or minimize, excuse me, I guess I should say, our time spent in that area.
Cool. And Sean, what are you looking for from the rest of the hardware ecosystem and from the software ecosystem?
Yeah, so one wanted to echo Nathan's point about the content creation side. The other piece, though, is on the playback experience for users. We are really trying to push the boundaries and the limits of video content. So we're moving from 4K video now to 6K video. We really want to get to 8K and 10K. And to really be able to process that, we're going to need a lot more computing power on the GPU side. So we're pretty excited about the future.
Thank you. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, now I feel really, really bad about this, but I kind of have to come clean. There's been a little bit of an incident in the kitchen. So we actually have 4 different kinds of wings tonight. We have hot, very hot, ultra hot, and atomic hot. And we had them in 4 separate places, but now they're actually all been mixed together, and we're not sure which ones are which. So to sort that out, if you just bring out the wings, please, we're going to have to pass them down the first 4 rows, and you're going to tell us which ones are which. Does that sound good? Can we bring out the wings? The wings? The wings? Okay. And let's get the platter up here too, because now I'm going to welcome back to the stage Raja Kaduri to talk a little bit about VR and content creation. Raja? So Raja, before I go, have you ever heard of Russian roulette?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the wing version of that. There is 1 atomic wing and a whole bunch of hot wings on this plate. Do you want to try one?
Oh, they smell so good.
Yeah.
They've been passing these things around and all. Like, when am I going to get to eat one?
Well, I think you should eat one right now. And the chances are only 1 in 8 that you're going to pick the atomic one.
I can't. Oh, so should I pick? I can't eat. I can't eat and talk, especially wings.
Well, just a little nibble, maybe a little nibble.
Just a little nibble?
Just a little.
Which one?
You have to pick the one that...
This looks delicious.
Yeah, okay.
It smells great.
All right. I got a confession to make. They're actually all atomic hot.
Yeah. No. Oh, So now I'm supposed to talk after this? There's some water hidden. Okay, I'm back here. I think this is the most exciting portion of this evening because we won't leave you without a new product launch, right? We have a product. And this is a product that's kind of particularly near and dear to me because this is something that I've been thinking for a long, long time. You know, we work with content creation community. We worked with them for 15 years. We see their workflows. We do optimizations of variety of content creation software. We do certifications, et cetera. We understand their stuff. And we also seen over the last 18 months, as Roy said, oh my God, it is hot actually, whatever he passed him. And it's good. That the VR content creation community has unique set of challenges and even more larger set of requirements. And one thing we found with the VR content community is that they've been using game engines which we kind of traditionally put in the consumer space, right, under the Radeon as a content creation tool. And of course, during the creation process, you need a lot of memory, a lot of performance, lots of different things, and robustness too, robustness of the tools, the GPUs, the drivers, and all of those things. So we've been noting that over the last 18 months as well. Now, we've also noticed the new generation of creators. They're also gamers. They also game at night, spare time. They have their favorite franchises. So we said, hey, like I said, I've been noting this for a long, long time. We have seen this phenomenon, digital cameras, right? Everybody is a prosumer. How many of you have DSLRs along with quite a few hands, right? The same phenomena here. So we decided to create a product for them, and it's called Radeon Pro Duo. And you'll see the first unveiling. Actually, there is a system here that's built with the Radeon Pro Duo, and we'll be demonstrating it live. And this is for the gamers who create and creators who game. We have another shot of it with the cooler and all, and we have 16 teraflops of compute performance. Like I said, creators have no limits of their computing needs. So we packed the highest performance possible today with any GPU on one card. And we also have a Radeon VR Ready Creator segment for creators. It's the first workstation class card with high bandwidth memory. It's also the world's fastest graphics card, and it features asynchronous shaders. You heard quite a bit about the uses of it. Now, it's made up of 2 Fiji GPUs, 8 gigabytes of high bandwidth memory, 4 display ports, and 16 teraflops. That's the beautiful Radeon Pro Duo, and that you'll see here in action. Now, let's see what this card can do. Okay, so we have the first demo. We have our ray tracing, GPU accelerated ray tracing called Fire Render. And to show what it can do, let me welcome Gary Davis of Visual Z onto the stage to demonstrate what a Radeon Pro Duo could do.
There it is. Hotter than the chicken wings. So my name's Gary Davis. Just real briefly, I'm going to go talking about rendering at a game development conference, which is kind of one of these things. Earlier in the video that was played, you heard the term blurring of the lines. And that's actually something that my background is. I've got 20 years in this crazy business of doing 3D, and it's crossed over from design visualization and game development and a lot of different industries. We all have the stories of the battle trenches. At the heart of that, and the bread and butter for me has been Autodesk 3ds Max, going back since prior to its initial release. And what I'm excited to talk about, in addition to the Radeon Pro Duo, which was just unveiled, is a software ray tracing engine called Fire Render. Now, Fire Render is a ray tracer. We're talking a lot about VR is back. Well, ray tracing is back as well.
Yeah.
And again, I'm talking about a rendering engine at a game development conference, which might sort of not seem that obvious, but that goes back to this idea of blurring the lines. And what we've got here with the Fire Renderer is a full-fledged renderer, and what's nice about this is it's very simple to use. Now, this renderer, when it becomes available very soon, is going to be free to everybody, just free. And what's great about this is it's easy to use, among other things, is that it's really easy to use. So if you think about somebody using this new card in game development, maybe for VR or typical console games or casual games, what you're going to be doing is authoring these scenes, doing digital content creation. Well, in this particular case, and in my 20-whatever years of using 3ds Max, I've never seen a rendering engine that is able to do what this one is doing, and that specifically is using a standard scene material. And over here you can see I've got the standard Max material. It's been in there since version 1, but that standard material is compatible with virtual reality and game engines. So as opposed to going down a rendering pipeline or a real-time pipeline, you can do both of these workflows in one scene. So you're repurposing that content. Again, over here, if you're looking at the interface for the first time, you're seeing a very simple interface. That's the entire rendering engine, including all of the advanced parameters that we'll be talking about here. And the one that I want to focus on specifically right down here, and it might be hard to see on the projector, but right here, this gives you the ability to render in CPU mode, GPU mode, or CPU and GPU. Right now, I've got it set up to do two different GPU renders. And what we're going to look at here is a comparison between a couple of these different renders. Now, I know I'm holding you up between, it's me holding you up between drinking, so we're not going to go full off into do all these renders, but I want you to see a real obvious difference between these two renders. And I'll go back and forth between A and B a couple of times. So, I mean, you can clearly see the difference, right? I'm kind of pulling your leg with this bit right here. So there's no difference, right? We see A, B. There technically is no difference. It's the same exact quality. The point about this is that it was nearly half the time. So with the same card, just enabling the Fire Render plugin to go from 1 GPU to 2 on the same card, we've almost doubled our performance. So it's all about scalability with this card and being able to repurpose game development assets with rendered assets.
Gary, that's great scaling on Radeon Pro Duo. Can you, just for reference, tell us how long it would take on the CPU if we had let it run?
I think everybody wants to probably see me just do like a half-an-hour render here before they get a chance to have some drinks. So instead of doing that live,
it'll be all late.
I'll be upstairs, not in the DJ booth, but right next to it. We have a replica machine of this. So if you want to come see it, maybe take some press pictures or whatever, I'll be up here for the rest of the evening, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So this, I want to call to attention, it's still minutes, right? Remember what I said at the beginning of this session where I said we want a million X acceleration. We need to bring this minutes to milliseconds, right? That's a big scale factor, and that's the journey we are on. And there are many interesting startups that are doing game development and VR development. And AMD has been working with several exciting ones, and I'm really pleased to introduce one of those exciting startups, and a gentleman named Tom Sanoki, who is CEO of Limitless. And they're making some exceptional VR. And Tom, come on stage and let us know what you're working on. So.
Hello, everybody. My name is Tom Sanoki, and I am, as you said, the CEO and founder of Limitless. And I've spent my whole career in that intersection between art and technology. When we started Limitless, we thought about what problem to solve, and we started with thinking, what's the promise of virtual reality? And to answer that, we looked to science fiction. We started with books like Diamond Age, Snow Crash, Ready Player One. We looked to the Star Trek holodeck. We looked at The Matrix. And then we looked at our team, which has veterans from both film and games. I was a character lead at Pixar for 11 years, and then I spent 4 years as a character and cinematics lead at Bungie on Destiny. And the answer we came up with for our team is emotional connection with digital characters. Characters that respond to what you do and say in a way that feels real and rich in virtual reality. We're building a platform to allow interactivity with virtual characters. Characters that understand what you're saying, what your gestures mean with your hands and your head, understand where you're looking, and use that to create content that makes them a part of your story just like you're a part of theirs. We're building a character standard that makes it easy to build characters and customize them, to share animation and models with everybody, and wrapping it all up into the limitless VR creative environment where we can make it easy for people to build content. You know, we've talked about storytellers, we've talked about how we have to make things easy. We can and should make it easy for people to build things that involve characters on a rich storytelling level. We have our first customer, Motional, using our platform. Their first project is Gary the Gull. Motional is run by an ex-Pixar writer-director, an animation supervisor, 18 years at Pixar. And their project, Gary the Gull, is showcased at the VR Lounge here at GDC, their world premiere. And in it, a seagull is going to sit down on the beach next to you, and you're going to have an emotional connection. We're excited to not only show this to the world, but to see where everyone else takes storytelling into VR using rich interactivity and characters.
Thank you, Tom. This is exciting. This is you know, that intersection of you know, technology and creativity is what we are about, and you know, that is what attracted us to you, to work with you. Thanks, Tom.
Yeah.
Thank you, and
looking
forward to hanging out with you tonight.
We're excited to work with AMD, and I'm excited to take you know, the Radeon Pro Duo and put it through its paces, because we're not going to stop with just one character. We need 5, 10, 100, thousands of characters in our worlds, and you know, by doing that, we'll be able to together bring, you know, real life into virtual reality.
You want limitless.
That's the idea.
Yes.
Virtual reality. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. So the next CEO absolutely needs no introduction. He's my good friend, Chawat Early from Crytek. Please welcome Chawat onto the stage. Chawat, been a while. And you know, Chawat, he is here to talk about, actually I don't need to, you know, say much. GPUs, game engine, right? That was the theme of this conference, and I leave it to Chawat to take us to the next few minutes.
Thank you. So yeah, I'm Chawat from Crytek. So as you know, Crytek has always been about pushing the boundaries of interactive entertainment. Today, that means being at the cutting edge of VR development. We have one of the largest dedicated VR teams working in the industry, and CryEngine, which has been always the engine to go for the most visually ambitious and technically advanced games, doesn't just support today natively VR on all the different HMDs, but also it also benefits from the continuous updates that we roll over from our games into the engine, as we do both, right? So we are very passionate about VR. And so we also wanted everybody is interested in harnessing the power of VR, virtual reality, to have access to the equipment and the knowledge they need to create these amazing VR experiences. So in January, we announced the VR First program, a new grassroots program that allows the next generation of VR developers to use the most state-of-the-art labs at academic institutions. Each lab will be a place where students can learn VR development by using the latest technology and benefit from the insights from some of the smartest industry minds and enjoy full access on the CryEngine source code and support. So, oops, sorry. So each VR First lab will be using the best technology available. And today, I'm delighted to announce that the Radeon Technology Group will be our exclusive GPU partner for the VR First program. So the Radeon Group will equip VR First labs with their world-class VR hardware and software, and will provide, that will allow the developers to provide the most amazing visual experiences, best performance, and deliver the most comfortable user experience. Those labs will be hotbeds for the developers of the future and will form a networked global community to equip and to drive the virtual reality revolution. We established a VR First lab, a pilot lab, just a month ago, or actually 2 months ago, in Istanbul with Bau University. And today, we have 7 more universities or institutions out of North America and US joining us. These are the Carleton University, CSU Monterey Bay, Purdue University, the Rochester Institute of Technology, University of Florida, USC School of Cinematic Arts, and the Vancouver Film School. These institutions will pioneer VR first in US and Canada. And we will announce more universities soon coming. But let me get back to the technology and our partnership. So Radeon Technology will bring VR to the VR First Labs, all the technologies such as Liquid VR, multi-GPU technology, and DirectX 12 support. Successful immersion as in presence in VR requires an enormous amount of computation and coordination between the headset, the engine, the API, and its graphics processor. Delays in that process can ruin the user experience. Liquid VR streamlines that when integrated with CryEngine and makes an incredible smooth and responsive VR experience. Multi-GPU has known and revolutionized already the PC gaming market. In VR, where refresh rates and resolutions are critical, they're incredibly demanding, multi-GPU will open up a door for experiences that we have never seen before. Radeon Technology Group is the leader in the multi-GPU technology. With their tech, the VR First Labs, the students there will empower and will be empowered and will break new grounds. DX12 is here, and it's big, as we know. Today has been a topic a number of times. The Radeon Technology Group has been leading the charge on this technology, and the hardware is set to transform VR development by providing lower level access than ever before on the graphics hardware. But our relationship isn't just about providing great hardware and software into developers' hands. It's much more than that. We're also going to have, the VR first users are going to have access to some of the top engineers of the world, the VR engineers from AMD, and will benefit from not only the technical support, but also their extensive knowledge base. So, does it move on? Well, I mean, we really believe that this partnership is more than just 1 is 2. It's actually a 3 scenario. So 1 + 1 = 3. Participants in the, I got some technical problems here going on. Participants in the VR program will go on and create experiences that will be enjoyed by millions of people out there. And it also ensures they have the best tools and the best hardware and the work and the best development environment to create the best content. So if you would like to become a part of the VR First initiative, we would like to talk to you. You can find more information on our website, vrfirst.cryengine.com, or visit us at our booth at the show. Thank you very much, and that's it from me. Enjoy the rest of the day. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Chawat. Yes. So, just to kind of confirm there that the VR First program will be reaching all the universities with the the advanced Crytek engine, plus the Radeon Pro Duo GPU, plus access to the engineers both from Crytek and AMD. Just want everybody to understand that. Now, we are not done with the big announcements yet. We have a big one. I'm so excited to welcome Matthew Lewis from Practical Magic and 20th Century Fox on stage to talk about the incredible VR experience they're working on. Welcome, Matthew.
How's it going?
It's going good. We are.
You guys are super serious about this whole alcohol happiness thing, because they were like stuffing drinks in us up there. So if I start to go off the rails, someone just tackle me, because I know secrets and I'm about to start talking.
Yeah.
So let's see.
Productivity.
Yeah.
Productivity.
Let's see how much of this I can remember. We don't have it. You have a remote?
Oh, yeah. Here.
Thank you very much. So look, down in Hollywood, we get to work on some pretty cool stuff. And in my job, I have a really weird, kind of hard to describe job. The studios tend to call me to do things when new technology comes out and nobody knows what to do with it. So I get to go in and try new tech and push it to its extremes. And anytime you're pushing technology to the extreme, you pretty quickly find the limits in your tools. And that's the problem I run into all the time. Nowhere is that more true than in VR. It's really difficult. And the tools that exist for VR, the tools we're using now, we're pushing them past their limits. We're asking them to do things that they were never intended to do. And that makes VR hard to do, and it makes good VR really hard to do. But storytelling in VR is super interesting. And that's why for the last year or so, Fox and New Regency have been doing some pretty cool stuff in VR. Guess what? This is what we're working on now. After the Martian experience that came out earlier this year, the next hard VR experience that we will be working on is Assassin's Creed VR. It's a very, very cool project. It's been in the process for the last 6 months. We've been shooting it all over the world, and it's not a game. Assassin's Creed VR is a cinematic VR experience being shot directly alongside the film. Every location, Malta, Spain, London. By shooting on location, we're capturing and recreating the world from the film in really, really high quality, using massive textures, complex geometry, and it's all being painstakingly done with 3D scanners. And I should know, when I say painstaking, it was our team. It was literally there in a warehouse in Malta in the summer scanning swords and weapons and costumes from this movie. Is very, very hard work. We're going really, really far trying to create this experience so that it's really on par with the motion picture experience. And this has been an interesting process. As I'm directing this project, this is what I do when I go to work every day. And I know firsthand what the challenges are trying to do VR at a motion picture studio level. It's difficult. We're having a lot of technology challenges, especially when you're trying to work. Think about this from a consumer perspective. What does it take just to consume VR? You need a very high-end system. You need aggressive specs, and that's just to watch it. From a studio authoring perspective, when we're working with raw materials, tremendous assets, 3D point clouds, the tools just haven't been there. And that's been a challenge for us the whole time we've been working on this project. And that's where AMD comes in. So AMD calls and very politely said, what can we do to help? Well, you know that scene in The Matrix when Trinity asks Neo, what do you need? And he just has guns, lots of guns. That's literally what we said to AMD. We said, we need bigger guns. We need a lot of things. We need a drink and some sleep, but we really need bigger guns. And this is a totally true story. Right after that conversation, a nondescript cardboard box shows up at my office. And we open it, and inside there's a really fast computer, but there's also this video card we hadn't seen before, something about Fiji, unfamiliar to me at the time. And of course, it was a Radeon Pro Duo. And AMD just said, try it. And we did. And now I'm standing here. So connect the dots. It was a really interesting experience for us and a really empowering experience for us to actually see the throttle response that we'd been missing up until this point. It didn't take long for us to figure out that the Radeon Pro Duo isn't just a video card. It's really something that's been designed with VR in mind. It's like someone knew all the problems that were in my head and put them into this card. A lot of the stuff that you see on a retail box that sells video cards, megahertz and RAM, all these important things, it's these little things like asynchronous shaders and low latency, the stuff that's like in the smaller font in the corner that like people aren't really paying attention to. Let me tell you, from having been doing this for a long time now, whatever long time means in VR, which is probably 5 minutes, but a long time, those are really critical components of a VR experience. They're the difference between VR being good and VR being great. And at the studio level, VR has to be great. We only do great. So it's not just enough to have the card. We need to be the ability to harness all of the things that the card can do, which is where Liquid VR comes in and lets us really kind of touch the bare metal of this thing and really get that throttle response when we step on it. It's interesting to see some of the problems that we've now been able to solve that we couldn't solve before, really due to these limitations. We had a real serious problem with simple stuff like on-set monitoring. Like, I'm literally the person directing this experience, and sometimes we can't even see what we're shooting because there's just, they say that there's, look, if you look around, you're going to find some people that say they offer solutions to do this. It's not a thing. Like, it's just not. Like, there's some stuff out there that kind of works. And so when we need it at a different level. This is Fox we're talking about. We're not messing around here. And now with, the Pro Duo in the house with some custom software, we're able to see what we're doing on set live, 60 frames per second. That's totally game-changing for us. That's a really big deal. That's something we couldn't do before that we're now able to do, and obviously makes us really happy. So VR is hard. It's still hard, but it's been too hard. It really has been. Even consumers, content creators, it's been a little bit too hard. And for the first time, we're starting to see that change. I really think that the Radeon Pro Duo with Liquid VR is actually finally a tool that not just going to be available to content creators, which it needs to be, but available to everybody. It's finally giving us the response we need from our hardware, the response we need from bare metal, to do the things we need to do, the baseline stuff that's going to be necessary to create studio quality VR experiences. So on behalf of everybody at Practical Magic and Fox and New Regency, we're very grateful for AMD's help with this project. We're using it throughout the Assassin's Creed VR production experience. We're using it everywhere. And we couldn't do it without you guys. So thank you very much. And you'll be seeing Assassin's Creed VR experience later this year.
Thank you, Matthew. Can I have the clicker? Matthew, clicker. From what we have seen, Assassin's Creed VR, the work they're doing, it's going to define what VR experience is going to be. They are pushing the limits. And we are so thrilled to be a partner enabling that stuff. So I don't want me to be between you and the happiness index. I see kind of, people, little getting tired, and they want the alcohol and the capsaicin. I want all Radeon Technology Group employees that are around come onto the stage. I have kind of the last bit of announcement to make. We formed, come on up, guys. I'll keep speaking. Come on up. We formed RTG about 6 months ago. To have focus on graphics. We saw what was coming towards us in the next 5 years. We saw a tremendous opportunity. And we formed it based on 3 principles. The first one was passion. We are passionate about graphics, gaming, VR, and developers. And you'll see that plenty tonight as you engage with the RTG team. The second attribute, and this is, we use this internally as well, and now externally. We are persistently committed to accelerating your workloads, 1 millisecond at a time, through consistent advances in hardware and software. You'll see us make improvements every month, every week, throughout the rest of the year. And last but not least, we are fun. It's play. We will always be fun to work with and hang out with in good times and bad times. With that, let's get productive tonight, and let's start the party. I'm looking forward to meeting you and talking to all of you tonight. And here is the RTG group.
Tell everyone to go upstairs.
Yeah. Oh, if you can all move to upstairs, they'll move the chairs out and make a dance floor here for us to all, get dancing. Like I said, sorry, get productive, right, tonight. Thank you.